doesn't know the name Davy Crockett, one of the most famous frontiersmen of all time? Back when Disney was pretty much king of the world, they released a show called Davy Crockett, King of the Wild Frontier. And after the show wrapped up, they decided to put a lot of the episodes together into one big compilation, being this movie. So, yeah, this is a bit of a cheat, but at the same time, I think it works okay as a film, so I think it's worth talking about. And besides, Davy Crockett has definitely played a large part in Disney's identity, so I think we gotta talk about it. The film, like I said, is a condensed version of all the episodes, so they definitely had to cut a lot of things out. This is funny seeing how the show was already a very romanticized version of a real historical character. So the movie sort of serves as a best of the show. But it still comes off pretty effective, seeing how they know just how much character to keep in there and just how many plot points to keep in there, so it never feels rushed or out of place. It's just following his journeys of Davy, his partner Russell, finding adventures to partake in, helping piece out ties with the Native Americans and the white man, killing wildlife, and occasionally even seeing the missus and his kids. Yeah, he does that, what, once in the movie? Ah, the 40s, when family for a man was more of a side project. With that said, they don't always shy away from the hard truths. For example, the last episode and the last part of the movie is the Alamo, and, well, they lose, as you know happens in history, and they don't shy away from that. But again, it's very romanticized. Everything is played up almost more like a legend than it is actual history. Even the guy who plays Davy, Fess Parker, just look at him with the squinty eyes, chiseled jaw, good looks, very laid-back voice. I mean, this guy is practically a frontiersman Jesus. And I think that's the attitude you have to have going into this. That is romanticized, it is played up, it is having fun more with the legend aspect than the historical aspect. Hell, there's actually a scene where he's talking about grinning down a bear. Yeah, that's right, taking down a bear by just grinning at him.
There's nothing so absolutely unresistible as an old-fashioned good-natured grin. Like this. I figured the same thing ought to work on bars, but I never got a chance to find out.
It's pretty silly. But I think Fess Parker's performance is so laid back and so confident that I kind of enjoy it. I can see how a lot of history buffs will look at this and kind of laugh, but I think they make the myth that they've created here just so likable that it's hard for me not to have fun with it. Russell's a good side character, there's a lot of good friends and foes that they come across along the way. Some of them stereotypes, but not as mean as you would think. It just sort of has its own strange, unique charm to it. It is cheesy, and a lot of it is kind of fictionalized, but at the same time, it's the kind of story you want to believe. And you have fun believing, even though you know it's probably not true. It's like 300. You know it's overdone, but it's kind of enjoyable how overdone it is. I think that's probably a good way to figure out whether or not you'll enjoy it. If you want to see the true story of Davy Crockett and his adventures, this probably isn't the best version to watch. But if you want to know about the myth, the legends, more the tales that people would tell around a campfire than you would find out of a history book, then I say this is a lot of fun. I know it's hokey, but for me, it's just an old-fashioned good time. Lady and the Tramp was one of the first movies I ever saw in theaters, so naturally I loved it when I was a little kid. The story of an upper-class female dog that comes across a low-down, scroungy male dog is about as typical as it gets. At first they don't like each other, but a few situations force them together, and as they get to hang out more, they really decide that they're meant for each other. There's some differences to this usual story that I like the fact that I enjoy when they first see each other, it's not love at first sight like so many other Disney films. If anything, he just sees her in passing and just strikes up a conversation. It's not even a pleasant conversation. He's talking about how a baby's gonna take over her life and that she's never gonna be the center of attention anymore. And then he just leaves. Honestly, if you didn't know the story going in, you probably wouldn't have guessed they'd be together by the end. I sort of like that. There's also a bunch of clever little touches too, like I enjoy how the dogs interpret everything. Like how the main character thinks that the name of her owners are Jim Deere and Darling. Simply because that's what they call each other all the time.
Oh, darling!
In the kitchen, Jim Deere.
As Disney films go, it's cute. Nothing that spectacular. It keeps your interest, you want to know what's going to happen, but there's no real big surprises or any phenomenal bits of animation or, well, just anything that really stands out that much. But for what it is, it's a decent film. It did give us that great Siamese song, though, I don't know, is that racist? Now, too? I'm not sure. But it's the one song everybody hums when they're leaving the theater, so that's gotta count for something.
We are Siamese, if you please.
just say a miss if you don't please.
It is nice that they don't go for a straight-up villain in the movie or any of those forced story cliches. Well, except maybe one or two. But they're pretty downplayed. The movie is pretty much just a series of moments. But they're nice moments, and I don't recall them ever being really boring. So overall, I think it's okay. I don't think it's one I'll be watching over and over like the other Disney films, but it holds up decent. If you're a dog lover, or if even not, check it out. It's worth an hour and a half of your time.
On this lovely
Well, with the popularity of Davy Crockett the movie and the show being so successful, they of course had to make a sequel. But how the hell do you do that? You see Davy Crockett die in the last film. Well, this one they straight up say is a pure legend, in that it's completely fictionalized. In that there may have been a Mike Fink, him and Davy Crockett may have crossed paths at some point, but that's where the history stops. There's no other truth in this. Hell, they even straight up admitted in the song.
But most of his chores for freedom and fun got turned into legends, and this here is one.
And as one of these totally unneeded sequels just glorifying a myth goes, it's a lot of fun. Not for Davy, not for his partner Russell, but for Mike Fink. Oh my god, this guy is so enjoyable to watch. He is just the right amount of over the top. He's goofy, he's big-eyed, he's always got his mouth open, he's always drinking or smoking a cigar. He's always fighting, he's always punching, he's always looking to get in trouble. You just love this guy. Listen to what a loudmouth he is.
I am the original ringtail roarer from the Thunder and Lightning country. I'm a real snorter and a headbuster. I can outrun, out-jump, out-sing, out-swim, out-dance, out-shoot, out-eat, out-break.
Out-talk?
Yeah, out-talk.
Look at his expressions. Nothing he does is subtle, but it's just so... oh my god, you can't stop watching him.
Why, that's plain uncivilized piracy.
Ain't no question about it. Now make up your minds and let me know before morning. You keep me from my drinking.
He just steals every single scene that he's in, and it just makes for a great time. Which is good because the story, or stories, there's two in this one, are kind of lackluster. Russell gets drunk and accidentally challenges Mike Fink into a boat race. Mike Fink of course agrees, knowing that Davy and his crew know absolutely nothing about doing any boat work. But through hard work, determination, and their own theme song, they find the courage to actually be a fitting match. While the first half is about the race, the second half totally changes direction. Mike Fink and Davy become friends, and now they're on the lookout to stop some sort of Native American scheme where people dress up like Native Americans in order to rob people, and that's gonna start a war between the white man and them again. Yeah, it's kinda silly. But who cares? It gives a chance for Mike Fink to be in more of the movie, and I'm totally okay with that. But to the film's credit, it's not all Mike Fink and his gang. I mean, Davy Crockett is still Davy Crockett, and Russell is still Russell. They're both really charming. And once in a while you come across another funny character. For example, there's this one guy who sends messages in code to a bunch of smugglers about what the boat is carrying. If a boat is carrying gold, he'll sing about a woman who has hair just like gold. And that'll be the cue to rob it.
The color of yaller, yaller, yaller gold.
This makes for a really funny scene when he discovers that it's actually Davy Crockett and Mike Fink, and how he tries to subtly alert them of what's going on.
I thought maybe you fellas might like to hear a little music. It's Crockett and Fink, and down in the hold, there's a cannon and skirt of yellow, yellow gold.
It all builds up to a climax with the smugglers, and it's just kind of goofy, silly, hokey goofiness. Which I loved as a kid, and I gotta be honest, I kinda still like as an adult. It's the same reason I like the original Davy Crockett. It's just totally glorifying the myth and lore, except this time throwing in a little bit of comedy. But the comedy works. So if you're looking for a lighter version of the Davy Crockett story, maybe without the heavier moments, I say this is a good one to check out. Nothing spectacular, just the right amount of excitement and laughs.
Davy Crockett, tangling with Big Mike Fink. Old Yeller, Old Yeller.
By popular demand, and I do mean very, very, very popular demand, Old Yeller. this is the one I probably got the most criticism over skipping. Everyone proclaims it a Disney classic, and the reason I didn't review it before is because, quite honestly, I had never seen it before. The reason? Well, everybody ruined the ending for me. I won't give it away here, but let's just say if you know the ending, you kinda get the idea what kind of story it is, and even though I knew it was probably good, I kind of avoided it, saying to myself, I'd much rather see a film I don't know the ending to. But Disneycember, rightfully so, has forced me to finally look at this film that's beloved by so many, and yeah, it is really, really, really good. Honestly, it's among one of Disney's best. The reason being that a story like this can so easily be done wrong. It can so easily be made too corny. It can so easily get wrapped up in sappy music or overly sympathetic speeches, and especially being Disney, you would think that's what was gonna happen in this film. But it doesn't. It has a very nice, consistent tone. The story centers around a family whose father, played by Fess Parker, has to go away for 3 months on a cattle trail. He declares his son, played by Jeff York, to be the man of the house to run things and make sure the farm goes smoothly and all that good stuff. But he gets off to one heck of a bad start when a stray dog makes all sorts of trouble, scaring away the animals, eating up a bunch of the food, just being an all-around pain. But his younger brother says he really wants a dog, and the mother seems to kind of agree. A friendly animal, even if he is a troublemaker, would work out well, seeing how the little brother now has very few friends to hang with, seeing how his older brother is now taking care of everything. But the older brother vows never to like the dog, while over time the dog does prove his worthiness, and of course they form a strong friendship. From this point on, it's nothing but the experiences and adventures that him and his dog share. Yeah, that's right, no straightforward villain, no money scheme, no any of that dumbass crap that we feel we have to put in these other family films. It's just the experience of a boy and his dog, and you know what? If it's done right, that's all you need. And this film clearly does it right. A lot of that centers on two things. One is our main actor. He does so well playing this kid who is constantly getting crapped on but still tries his best to pull things through. You can see the frustration, you can see the aggravation, you can see him getting so angry over all this. But at the same time, when things go well, he does legitimately enjoy that too. The whole film centers around when he's supposed to be tough and when he's supposed to be sympathetic. When is it time to fire the gun and when is it time to put the gun down? In this environment, those are not easy choices, and this actor does a wonderful job showing his struggle through it all. And speaking of environment, that's the other thing that is done so well in this film. The pacing, tone, and atmosphere plays a big part in why this movie is such a success. It establishes that it is a very tough dog-eat-dog world, but at the same time there can still be very joyous and happy moments. And it doesn't shy away from either of them. When tough, really depressing stuff happens, it acknowledges it. But when really happy, upbeat stuff happens, it acknowledges it too. It never spends too much time with either one. It equals out so well to keep kids entertained, but at the same time, teach them about the sometimes very difficult world without them being afraid of it. When you get to the end message, which is so in your face it can't possibly be escaped, you really do find that the film, all the way from the beginning to the end, truly supported it. It's a coming-of-age story that showed, at least for the time it was made, the hardships of life and the joys of life. Again, in a G-rated Disney film. So the graphic stuff isn't too graphic, but once in a while that kinda makes it even more uncomfortable. When they're stitching up Old Yeller, isn't that just so much more uneasy when you don't see it being done? They really know how to get the point across even if they can't show everything. Plus, I didn't know Mike Fink was in this movie! Holy smokes, I totally would have seen this earlier if I knew that! Now, there is one problem I had with the film, even though it might be a side note to many, is how well are these animals being treated? I'm not talking about in the story, I mean like the actual making of the film. I don't usually think about that stuff too much, but I'm looking at a lot of this footage and I was kind of uncomfortable with some of it. I mean, the two dogs fighting, okay, that's just roughhousing, no biggie, but a dog going up against a bear? Could they always make sure that nothing dangerous was gonna happen there? Look at the way this kid just tosses this frog and this snake. In fact, why the flying fuck did you give a kid a snake? I know that kind of snake is not likely to bite, but it's still giving a kid a fucking snake! I mean, maybe they were treated okay and it's just really, really good effects, but I don't know, you got a dog chasing a rabbit, that's one thing, and then you got them running under a mule, that's another thing, and then you got the mule running off after them, isn't this some really dangerous shit? I don't know, I could be reading too deep into it and it's years in the past, but it made me feel a little uneasy. But on the whole, the film is, like everybody says, a really friggin' good film. It doesn't need to rely on villains or complicated plots, it's just a little slice of life, written with characters that you care about in situations that you want to see them get through. And all the heavy moments and the happy moments never seem out of place. They seem to just melt into each other so naturally. It's emotional, it's effective, it's a damn good movie. I know most of you have seen it, but even if you haven't and you know what's gonna happen in the end, I can assure you as someone who is in the same situation, it's still definitely worth checking out.